In today's video, I am going to show you how to do the crocheted Alpine stitch, called the Alpine stitch because it kind of looks like a little pine tree, like you would see forest, all the trees lined up, and this makes a really thick, flexible, really nicely textured pattern that you can use on a washcloth. I have it here used on a makeup brush bag, and I'm going to show you how to create this lovely stitch so that you can get creative and use it on any project that you're trying to add texture to. Let's stitch. So what I have created here is just a little foundation, just so I have something easier to hang on to. I chained a row, did a single crochet row, half double crochet, and a single crochet row. You're always going to start this pattern with a row of single crochets across, and I have worked in an odd number since this is like basically a 2-stitch repeat. So if you want to do your casting on as an even number +1, so you have one for the chain stitch, that would be great. So I cast on 15, and then I did 3 rows just to give myself a little bit of foundation to work with. So we can go ahead and start the Alpine stitch. So do a row of single crochets if you would like to stitch along. And then I'm going to yarn over. We're going to be working a double crochet, and I call it a long double crochet simply because the stitch is going to be pulled up a lot higher than you would do for a regular double crochet, because we're trying to get the tops even so that the stitches stay even across the top. So I'm going to go ahead and do that yarn over. Then I'm going to go down to the next row, and I'm going to go around the post. So if you can see, let me go back a little bit. So here's the row that we should be working into. And then I'm going down to this row, and I'm going to go around the post of that stitch. Okay? So let's do the yarn over, around the post, grab the yarn and bring it back through, and I'm going to pull up. This is where we get into that long double crochet, because I want to pull this stitch up to where it's even with the other stitches that are there. Then I'm just going to yarn over, and I'm going to complete the double crochet. Now, since we dropped down and did the stitch below, we're going to skip this next stitch, and we're going to move to the next stitch to the left. So yarn over, insert into the top of that stitch, and this is just a regular double crochet. I'm going to yarn over, and below the next stitch to the left, I'm going to go grab around the front of that post, pull up a stitch and pull it up so that it is even with my double crochet that I just did on the last stitch. Yarn over and complete the double crochet. The next stitch, I'm just going to skip the stitch behind this one that I just created, and we're going to work into the next stitch over. And when I'm done with this row, I'll show you the back so you can see what this looks like on the back of the project, so you can see where you're skipping the stitches and how that turns out visually. Yarn over, and then we're going to work into the bottom, or into the post of the next row down. Pull up for the long double crochet, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. then I'm going to skip that stitch and go to the next stitch, do a double crochet, yarn over, front post of the next row down, pull up for the long double crochet, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Skip this stitch, move to the next stitch, yarn over and do a double crochet. Yarn over, pull up from the front post to a long double crochet, yarn over, and I'm going to do my last double crochet in the corner here. All right, for the next row, if you're not working in the round, you're going to turn it over and work the back of this sample or your project, and I can show you now what it looks like on the back. So it looks like you have a little ridge that's being formed, and there's actually like a little pocket where that stitch goes down, because we didn't grab this top stitch, we grabbed down on the next row. And when you're working row after row, that works itself out, but that's like a really good gauge just to see if you're working into the right place. When you're doing your long double crochets, you should have a little bit of a pocket that you can stick your finger into to get to the bottom of that stitch, so that you know that everything is even, you're working into the correct row, and everything is looking good. So for this second row of this pattern, we're just going to single crochet across. Oops. And I always work into the tops of the stitches unless the pattern calls for working around the top row. I always work into the top of the stitch, and by top of the stitch, I mean when you look at the top, how you see the little V's that have formed on each stitch. I'm going to work through both loops of that V. But I'm not going to go in through this hole and work around the whole thing. I'm just going to go through those top 2 loops. There are times when working through the whole stitch, like if you are wanting to create bigger holes, that would be a great time to work around the whole top of it. But we're not trying to do that here, so we're just going to stick to the top 2 loops of the stitch, working in the top of that stitch to create this row of single crochets. So I'm actually going to work through this corner stitch. There we go. It's like that does not look square, and that's why. If you miss that corner stitch, it will not look square. All right, now we're going to do our chain 3. Okay, and we're going to work our Alpine stitch again, where we're going to be doing those long double crochets. But this time we're going to be actually grabbing the front post of all of these double crochets that we completed on the first row of this pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and, oops, I forgot to yarn over. Don't forget to yarn over, because this is a double crochet around that post, and then all the way up so that the loops are even with your last stitch. And then we're going to skip this stitch and go to the next one and do a double crochet, yarn over. So we're going to skip this one where we had our Alpine stitch, and we're going to go for the regular double crochet that we created around that post, pull up for the long double crochet, skip the next stitch, complete our double crochet. It's not my day to crochet, look at that. Okay, so we're skipping only the stitch behind and working into the next stitch, which is this one. There we go. Complete the double crochet, yarn over, grab that double crochet from previous row, pull up for the long double crochet, skip the stitch behind and go to the next stitch, yarn over, double crochet, yarn over, pick up the front, do a front post double crochet into a long double crochet, yarn over, skipping this one, go into the next one, there we go, front post single crochet or double crochet into a long post crochet, yarn over, skipping this stitch, going into this one, into our double crochet, yarn over, and for this one we're going to wrap around this last post here into a long double crochet and complete that. And then we're going to chain one before we turn and do our row of single crochets. So let's go ahead and complete these single crochets, and then we will look at the pattern that we have created. I have a little trouble with a little ball of yarn here. And I'm working with a medium weight yarn and a size H hook. This particular yarn is very easy to work with. It doesn't fray really easily. It's a nice smooth texture. It's not really furry, so that it's easy to see each of the stitches. So if you want that pattern to really stick out, you're gonna want a yarn that doesn't have a lot of furry edges sticking out to distract from the pattern. Go into that last corner to make sure we stay square this time. And I'm just going to yarn or chain one so I can turn it over and we can look at the pattern that we've created. So you can see all of our little trees that we've created, and we would just continue on in that pattern where we do a row of single crochets and then a row of the Alpine stitch alternating with double crochets all the way up. So remember, chaining on even stitches plus one, and then you're going to start with a row of double crochets, single crochet, and then you'll start into your pattern where you do the Alpine double crochet alternating, row of single crochets. So that's how you create this lovely tree stitch. And this is the project that I created using this stitch. Was the very first time that I used it, and it was so fast and easy to complete, and I just put a little crochet drawstring in it and made a little makeup bag. So it's a very fun stitch. It's just really cute and just adds such a cute little texture to it, and it's super easy to make. So hope you enjoyed this. If you want the pattern to this drawstring makeup brush bag, you can click the link down in the description, and don't forget to subscribe so you can keep up with all of my tutorials and new content, and drop me a comment and let me know that you're here. I always love to hear what everybody has to say. So until next time, happy stitching.